Fran Lab. The past week, I've been dealing with the fallout of the last couple weeks of my talking about things that have nothing to do with politics, but everything to do with me. But man, the number of comments that I've had to deal with, and the number of people who have been busting my chops, emailing me and sending me messages about how it's so sad that you used to have this really cool electronics channel, Fran, and you had to make it about politics. I'm gone. I'm out of here. Unsubscribed. It's like, wow. First of all, thanks for your support. And second of all, there were so many comments, some version of that. You know, Fran, why do you have to bring your personal life into it? Why can't you just entertain me? Says the white guy in America. Why don't you just serve me like you're supposed to? Why do you have to bring your personal life into your YouTube channel? What you do with your lifestyle is none of my business. There was so much of that. I was gonna throw up. It's like, man, one more guy telling me how disappointed they are that I made my channel all about politics. It's like, well, gee, what politician did I mention in any of those videos? What political organization did I mention in any of those videos? What political points did I make in any of those videos? I was just talking about myself. I guess talking about yourself becomes politics when the politics comes to you. And that's been the frustrating overlap between Fran Lab and what's going on in the country. How can I not talk about it? But there's always this contingent of the population who really believe that when someone like me is singled out, that you really just, you got to keep it to yourself, you got to keep that to yourself. Don't involve me in your troubles just because you are the way you are. So many comments basically saying, hey, you get what you deserve for being an abomination. There was plenty of that talk. And yes, a lot of support, a lot of people giving support. Yeah, a fair share of abuse too. So like for every 2 comments of support that I got, I had to deal with somebody being hard on me. So yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. And the news hasn't stopped literally bringing politics into it. To give my critics something to chew on, this is officially the first time that I brought politics into the discussion because it was in the paper. On the floor of the House, Republican, this guy here, this Republican rep, refers to the first openly trans member of the House as a man. They've been setting this up for months. Of course, I knew it was going to happen. Everyone knew it was going to happen. Sarah McBride from Delaware knew it was going to happen. Everyone was prepared for it. But then they went and they did it. Yes, Keith Self of Texas, of course, of Texas. It's always Texas. Yes, introduced his colleague, Sarah McBride, as Mr. McBride. My first impression was, well, if someone did this to me, I would just flip it over and say the same thing to them, which is exactly what she did. She registered her displeasure by returning Mr. Self's slight by responding, "Thank you, Madam Chair." Which is perfect. That's exactly what I would have done. And the thing is, Sarah McBride said that's all that she was going to do. She just wanted to get to the committee meeting. Right, she's very much just a professional. She just wants to do the meeting. But no, they canceled the meeting because of the break-in protocol. And so, yes, Representative William Keating of Massachusetts, the ranking Democrat of the subcommittee, was not willing to move on. He interrupted to request that Mr. Self repeat his introduction, which he did, again referring to the Delaware Democrat as Mr. McBride. So Keating says, quote, "Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. And Mr. Chairman, you have no decency. I mean, I've come to know you a bit. This is not decent." Now we're in the Senator McCarthy hearing, Have you no decency, sir, at long last? Keating went on to say, you will not continue it with me unless you introduce the duly elected representative the right way. And he would not, so Mr. Self adjourned the session. So so they're literally not even doing their job because they can't get past this whole thing. Now this comes on the heels of the fact that even before Sarah McBride came to town, she was, after the election, there's this period of weeks before people go to Washington to actually get their offices and everything. In the interim between being elected and actually going to Washington, the people who are already in the Congress, they passed, the Republican majority passed a law banning trans people from all the restrooms in the Capitol building. And they didn't even do it under the guise of anything. They said, no, this is because Sarah McBride is coming and we want to make sure that this dude knows that they're not welcome and they can't use any of the bathrooms. And they made a big deal out of it. They were very proud of themselves. So, I mean, she came to Washington knowing everything that was already set up for her and expecting this very treatment. But the fact that they're not even going to do, like, hearings and subcommittees, they're actually not even going to do meetings because of this, it's just, yes, it's high school stuff. This is high school stuff. This is not adult. This is not mature. This is high school stupid chicanery. But yeah, I mean, Sarah McBride, always keeping the high road, says, I just want to represent Delaware. I just want to do my job. And so she ended up saying, no matter how I'm treated by some colleagues, nothing diminishes my awe and gratitude to getting to represent Delaware in Congress. She wrote, adding, quote, I simply want to serve and to try to make this world a better place. Says the trans person in Congress. Hopes and dreams, shining city on a hill and all that. And adding to this, as we're talking about this, other than busting my chops, the second most popular contrary comment that I got over the past week was people saying, Fran, your rights haven't been impeded. Nothing's going to happen to you, and completely ignoring the fact that I've lost my bathroom privileges and everything, and completely contradicting the fact that trans people have lost all of their protections for employment, housing, things like this, completely ignoring all that. But it was in the business section. Yes, trans workers point to betrayal, the agent meant to protect them. This is about the last several weeks, the EEOC, the nation's primary regulator, focused on workplace discrimination, made an about-face, in this particular case of Asher Lucas, and others involving transgender and non-binary workers, I guess across the country, moved to dismiss the case against Culver's, arguing that, that anti-discrimination suits would run afoul of President's executive order asserting that there are only two sexes. So, again, they're quoting the executive order as the reason why they're dismissing cases about discrimination, because you can't discriminate against people that don't exist. This is exactly the point I made before, and there were so many people commenting that, oh, Fran, just doom-mongering, none of that is happening, yada yada, the country's better than it was, yada yada, and people telling me, Fran, you should be happy that things are better, you should be happy to live in this country now that things are fixed. America's great again. Well, why are you against America? Why are you against America, Fran? Yeah. Thanks for that, Mr. American. Yeah, the spokesperson for the EEOC declined to comment, of course. But this is what's happening across agencies, all the agencies that are assigned to do certain things. I've mentioned before the EPA and the CDC, the FDA, the NOAA. All these agencies, they're being revamped to fit into the new paradigm of agencies that are supposed to have oversight of no oversight. Agencies that are supposed to regulate, they're going to be against regulation. Agencies that are going to predict the weather are no longer going to predict the weather, because if the weather is inconvenient or if the weather goes against what their beliefs are, then they're not going to predict that weather that way. You're not going to be able to trust anything that comes out of any of these agencies, because they're no longer following their edicts. So apparently a number of these cases in the EEOC were dismissed this past week, and judges that were, I guess, overseeing these cases, I guess these were like in process, were kind of astonished. And they were like, okay, well, I guess, because the prosecutors just withdrew the cases. Walking away from these cases and these individuals who put their trust in us is a betrayal. One current judge was so upset that she decided to speak out, saying, quote, "I am ashamed at how this agency, which I so believed in, is abandoning some of the most vulnerable people in our society," says Karen Ortiz, administrative judge in the EEOC's New York District Office. She hears discrimination claims brought by employees of the federal government. She says she knows that speaking out could cost her her job, but she is willing to take that risk. So, yeah, another body thrown upon the pile for create the foundation of the great new empire. Yes, and the NOAA is beginning to be stripped of people. And if you didn't read Project 2025, because the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration was basically predicting climate change and talking about climate change, they just want to get rid of the whole thing. They had said that they want to privatize it. They want to get rid of NOAA, and they basically just want to sell it out to a private entity, some private for-profit corporation to do weather prediction and keep it in line with the politics that they want. Your petrochemical forecast is ... It's not 100 degrees outside, it's actually 80 degrees outside. There is not a hurricane coming, it's not a hurricane, it's just going to rain. Yes, there will be no evacuations. We're not going to send FEMA because FEMA is trying to take over the country, so your state will do it better than FEMA will do it, so you're on your own. So that's where we're headed. They also want to privatize the post office. They want to get rid of the U.S. postal system and basically sell off the assets of the U.S. post office again to FedEx or UPS or something like that. Why not have a for-profit corporation dealing with your mail? Why not? That's what a Merc is all about. The post office did lose $9.5 billion in 2024. Well, since you're so well informed about the post office, you know exactly why the post office can't make a profit. You already know why the post office can't make a profit. I don't even have to say it if you're well informed about it. Has nothing to do with anything the post office does. We all know they had to call that billions of dollars. So they haven't been able to make profit in the last 20 years because all that money's been going to the retirement accounts of previous postal employees and yada, yada, yada. The post office was made insolvent by that judgment. It has nothing to do with the post office not being able to pull its weight. It's unfairly burdened by an unfair judgment. A political judgment that was done specifically to kill the post office. They put that levy on the post office to kill it, knowing that the post office couldn't survive if it had to put all that money into an account. But you already know all that. I don't have to talk about that because you're already well informed. You know all that already. So USPS has no obligation to make money either way. It's a government service, so that's not true. The post office is a unique organization. It is run as a private entity, and it's apart from the government. It's under government control. It's regulated by the government, but it is run as an independent. It's not like any other agency. It's not like the EPA or NOAA or any of these other agencies. It is its own entity. Congress holds the purse strings and tells it what it must do with its money, but it's run independently, and that's one of the things that has made the post office so unusual. It's not a government entity. It's a government-regulated entity, but it is not part of the government. It's like the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian is not a government entity, but it's under government control. It gets a lot of its funding from the government, but also other sources. It's independent, but it's under congressional regulation and control, but it's not part of Congress. It's not part of the government. Again, nuance is everything. Learn about the post office. Learn about the post office. The details matter. in the lab. Go berserk. In my lab, it's where I work. That's what you're watching. Friend Lab. That's what I'm doing. Working at the bench again.